Ladies and gentlemen, this video is not for entertainment. Pause the video and go and pick out your best dress or your best suit. This is a funeral service. For quite some time now, one of the worst crimes against humanity is being committed. Right before our eyes, right under our noses. But I see no hashtags, no protests, no riots, not even media coverage. Instead, only silence. Disgusting, deafening silence. But I'm here to break that silence about none other than the Gingercide. Modern Hollywood's war on redheads. If you've been consuming media over the last couple of years, be it movies, TV shows or the like, you must have noticed that many actors don't really look like the characters they're supposed to be portraying. Comics and cartoons are probably the most affected by this. And although race swapping has become very common in recent years, one particular group is being targeted more than any other. Redheads. Beautiful, beautiful redheads. What we're gonna do today is talk about the most prominent cases of Gingercide and honor several beloved characters we lost to it, including the one that has affected me the most, in order to bid my personal farewell. Then I'll show you another of the many strange trends TikTok blessed us with. This time one that is trying to make me believe that gingers are actually black. What's up, my gingers? And finally we try to find out and get to the bottom of why the extinction of gingers even exists. So let's start with an overview to showcase you what I'm even talking about. A little retrospective on things. I think it is safe to say that the Witcher universe has many fans on this planet, whether you've actually read the books of the creator of that universe, or if you just started becoming a fan while playing one of the 3 video game adaptations of the series. And when you're a fan of something, it's natural to get excited about receiving more projects related to it. This was certainly the case for Witcher fans when it was announced that Geralt and his adventures would be adapted into a Netflix show called The Witcher. On top of that, the actor playing Geralt is also a well-known gamer and fan of the franchise. Amidst all the excitement, however, it was immediately apparent that although Henry Cavill was perfectly cast and instantly recognizable in the role as Geralt, other cast members did not really resemble the popular characters they were supposed to portray, and especially in the case of today's topic of Gingercide, Triss Merigold. The red-haired beauty suddenly no longer had the one characteristic for which she was known for, among other things. Can you see a difference in those pictures? That's right, it's the hair. Where is her damn red hair? Another thing you might notice is the different skin complexion of those two people. While Triss's ethnicity could mostly be described as white, the actress portraying her in the Netflix adaptation is of South African and Jewish descent. If you weren't already familiar with the Witcher characters and their names, if you put the actress and Triss from the video game side by side, you wouldn't be able to form any kind of connection. The only thing similar might be the hair texture, but that doesn't really say anything. Besides that, many people have already pointed out that the original work, the books, were written by a Polish dude, and well, there are not many other ethnicities in Poland than white people, especially the Middle Ages in which the story takes place in. Another notable erasure of a red-haired portrayal was the casting choice of Batgirl in a movie that was planned to be released of her. Batgirl in the comics is one of the many comic book characters that have red hair as one of the basically trademarks. Through all the years of her existence, there were only some exceptions, like, for instance, the first TV appearance of Barbara Gordon. She was being portrayed by Yvonne Craig in the show Batman from the 1960s, starring Adam West.
A ticking bomb.
Holy, breaking and entering! It's Batgirl!
Quick, Batgirl, untie us.
I've worked for you a long time and I'm paid less than Robin. Equal pay for men and women.
No time for jokes, Batgirl.
It's no joke.
In that show, Barbara has brown hair, and her red hair is only a wig she puts on when she switches into her Batgirl outfit.
Our disguised and now Titian-haired beauty makes a smashing entrance.
Holy apparition!
No, Boy Wonder, I'm Batgirl. You are no longer alone, Caped Crusaders.
she does this to hide her identity better. But DC Comics decided to take it a step further and change another thing about her when they started filming for an upcoming movie about Batgirl. They chose to cast Leslie Grace as her, who basically just looks like a lighter version of Candace Owens. I just noticed that right now. See, Miss Grace is of Dominican origin, while Batgirl, aka Barbara Gordon in the comics, is clearly shown as a Caucasian person with sometimes striking blue eyes or striking green eyes. If you've been following the events surrounding Hollywood and its constant strange casting decisions, you've probably heard that the entire Batgirl project got cancelled. Not at the beginning or in the middle of filming, no. They were actually already done with everything before Warner Brothers, the owner of the rights, decided to pull the plug and never even release the movie in order to use it as a tax write-off. Meaning they claimed the film's production costs as loss to reduce the taxes they would have to pay for the other income. The production costs of Batgirl, by the way, were $90 million. They did not even try to get back at least some of that money through bought movie tickets. That's how little faith they had in the project. That was apparently not very well received in test screenings. Warner Bros. Weren't really sure how to release the movie. The project was too expensive for a release on streaming sites, but too bad for a release to theaters, so the least damage was the tax write-off option. But one of the biggest victims of Gingercide was so brutal that it even affected me as someone that isn't even a fan of the show. I'm talking about none other than April O'Neil from the cartoon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I'm not a fan of because I just don't like anthropomorphic animals. They remind me too much of furries. But this is probably the biggest butchering of a character I have ever seen up to date. It is so cruel that I'm still suffering with my brothers and sisters who are fans of that IP. I am genuinely sorry for you guys. I once saw a post that said something along the lines of TV show fans will only like the design of a character if they can fab to it. And well, there's only one thing I can say to that.
You're goddamn right.
No, all jokes aside. In all honesty and with peace and love, there's fan service and there's just wanting to be able to still recognize a character. There are many more characters I could have mentioned, like Peter Pan and how they butchered him too in the live-action adaptation that isn't even called Peter Pan, but Peter Pan and Wendy. Because feminism? Yeah, a normal human child is so much more interesting than a literal flying whatever the hell Peter even is. Wait a second, I have seen those eyes before. Bro, that's the daughter of Mila Jovovich from the Resident Evil movies. I had the biggest crush on Mila, bro. My god, I'm getting old, guys. Can somebody just stop time, please?
I want things to stay the way they are.
Can't stop time, Wendy, whether you like it or not.
And suddenly I remembered what Peter Pan was all about. So yeah, that was just an overview. Now I want to talk about the case of Gingercide that probably got the biggest amount of attention in recent years. None other than the controversy surrounding Ariel the Mermaid. She's probably one of the most prominent redheads. Nevertheless, Disney had the wonderful idea of casting Halle Bailey, not to be mistaken with the Halle Berry. I never watched the film, but there are enough reviews online that generally say that it was simply not a particularly faithful or inspiring adaptation. So let's just focus on the race swapping aspect. There were many arguments online between people who pointed out that nothing about the actress's appearance resembles Ariel, and others that said that the representation of black people was more important than anything else. I myself had a conversation like that with a friend of mine who happens to be black. Since both of us are not chronically online, we were able to have a somewhat civilized discussion about it that I want to share with you now. My friend argued something along the lines of that the race swapping of Ariel should not matter that much because it makes sense in that setting. What she was referring to was the fact that the movie's story takes place in the Caribbean Sea, and many black people live in that area. So, in my friend's mind, it seemed logical for Ariel to also be black to represent that real-world setting. I, on the other hand, said, Sure, but that's not what this is about. So we'll have to do a little experiment now, ladies and gentlemen. Close your eyes for me. Let's let our imagination work for a bit. What do you think of when I tell you, and when you hear the name Ariel? What are you seeing right now in front of you, inside of your mind? Are the thoughts you're having right now? Oh, of course, Ariel, yes, the Caribbean Sea. Or is it rather something like a mermaid with fair skin, beautiful big blue eyes, a nice smile, and especially fire red hair? Isn't that what most people think of first when they hear the name Ariel? You can open your eyes now, brother, don't fall asleep. Isn't this what the live-action adaptation was all about? Invoking nostalgia in people so they take their asses to the cinema and make Disney even richer. Because, let's be very honest, I think Disney's intentions were pretty clear. The first reason was creative bankruptcy. It's always easier to reheat food from yesterday than cook something entirely new. It's also a lesser risk. Why make an effort in coming up with new ideas that might flop when you can just recreate something that was already successful once? Especially since nobody has an emotional connection to new ideas yet. You capitalize on people's nostalgia, let people who grew up with the first cartoon movie come back to basically rewatch it, but as a live-action adaptation this time. People love nostalgia. It helps us shortly forget about the fact that we are all old as now and running to the inevitable end that is death. With such remakes, we are able to relive our childhoods for a couple of hours from a different perspective as adults now. Also, those people who knew Ariel from back then are grown up now and could already be having children of their own, and they want to share a part of their childhood with their children, so they take them to the cinema with them, which then means even more money for the producers, who now baited adults and children alike. But let's go back to the setting. Generally speaking, I do appreciate it when producers put effort into a movie by doing background research on its setting. But in this particular case, my priority laid somewhere else. In being able to recognize Ariel. Ariel's iconic looks that people connect her to her character. Additionally, it doesn't get realism points from me for including black characters in a black area that is the Caribbean Sea. Because originally, the story wasn't even set there. The movie producers had confirmed it for this adaptation, yes, but in the original work and early adaptations, it's a bit messier actually. I know that the first Disney movie had also made several changes to the story that comes from a fairy tale by Danish author Hans Christian Andersen. The reason for the changes Disney made was that many fairy tales that inspired their movies actually have way darker stories and endings. In Hans Christian Andersen's original story, it is not implied where the story takes place in. But let's focus on the Ariel Disney movie and not the fairy tale. The kingdom underwater that Ariel lives in is called Atlantica. Yes, a reference to the fictional underwater kingdom Atlantis, and a reference to the fact that it is set in the Atlantic Ocean. However, there are also implications in the original animation movie that it is actually set in the Mediterranean Sea, because of statues and architecture you see in there that resemble those from Greece or generally the Roman Empire, which is more at the coast of Sicily or Malta. Also, the official Disney Kids YouTube channel had once published a video about Disney princesses and facts about them, and it was mentioned there that Ariel's story takes place in the Mediterranean Sea.
So, Ariel grew up in the Mediterranean, right? Yes. Also, did you know that Prince Eric's palace is somewhere in Italy?
The only other references in the original animated movie to the Caribbean Sea comes from Ariel's friend Sebastian the Crab. Oh, let's take another better image of him. How much better. Well, Sebastian pointed out that he moved from the Caribbean Sea to the Kingdom Atlantica. That's also the reason he has a Jamaican or Trinidad accent, which are those two islands right here. Only parts of the music and instruments were inspired by the Caribbean region. But again, personally, I cared more for Ariel herself. I believe most people remember the looks of Ariel more than what kind of ocean it was set in. Most people watched it because they are movie fans, not because they are marine biologists. And well, what ended up happening is that the movie flopped. For many different reasons, but Western mainstream media, of course, only blamed it all on racism, their go-to excuse whenever they make a bad product. There are more than enough reviews that call out the lack of creativity. The fact that the once cute characters look like stuff from my literal nightmares now. Iconic characters were made to simply look like literal normal fish. The once colorful and lively setting had also been turned into a dark mess that looks more like a Zack Snyder movie than a family film that many used to love back in the days.
No.
Allegedly, they turned the brightness down so they could hide the bad CGI or something like that. Especially China or Asian regions in general got the blame for it flopping. They were accused of being racist for simply not watching the movie, which is a pretty racist accusation by itself. It gets even more hilarious when you look at the fact that just a week later, another movie got released with a black lead character, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, that got its second biggest earnings from viewers in China. A movie that has a black original character, that is Miles Morales. Americans earned millions of dollars from the same country they accused of being racist towards black people. It's almost like people can look past possible race and culture barriers when the product you deliver is actually good. Crazy, isn't it? What I also found out in my research is that the remake of The Little Mermaid got a rating of 7.3 stars out of 10 stars on the website IMDb, which seemed really suspicious to me, considering the fact a lot of people didn't like it. I had to open up the details of said feedback to find this little disclaimer here. It says that the website found unusual ratings and adjusted it to basically just ignore those. You can see that it actually got a lot of 1-star reviews. Is the movie so incredibly bad that it deserves only 1 out of 10 stars? Probably not. But if you ignore all kinds of constructive criticism towards the movie and only put out an emotional response to that is accusations of racism, then you have to expect equally emotional reactions right back. And you've probably seen the countless of videos posted online by parents about their black children reacting to the first trailer of Ariel and her being casted with an actress with the same skin color as them. Their reactions to those uploaded videos were mixed, as you can see in the like and dislike ratio and comments. Some people were tearing up for the emotional responses of those children. Others were wondering why children were so focused on skin color to begin with, and what kind of environment made them think this way, be it their own black parents or maybe experiences of racism from non-black people. And even black people themselves were not all very pleased with Disney's decision to change Ariel's skin color.
What blasphemy did she just say?
You can't be that girl.
Why is it not the real one?
Dishonor.
It's not because like Ariel's white, not brown. Like, why wouldn't it be a movie like that? And Ariel's his mom, not rated.
Some even parodied the adults that posted their children's reactions. They implied that these videos seemed very performative and that it looked like the children were nudged on by the parents.
Yes, she's black!
I also wanted to share with you my personal first encounter with race swapping of gingers, and one specific case that hurt my little heart the most. So there was the show called The Flash that was quite good at the beginning of its runtime, when the television production network CW was actually making quality shows with well-made special effects and focus on storytelling. The love interest of Barry Allen, aka The Flash, was this nice lady here called Iris West. At some point her brother Wally West got introduced that became basically the sidekick of The Flash. Both of those characters were portrayed by black actors. When I was still a child and saw those characters in a TV show for the first time, I was slightly surprised by their skin color. The simple reason was that I just didn't know many black comic book characters. Why? Because my knowledge of comic books in general was limited to begin with, since I didn't read any comics. My knowledge only stemmed from movies and TV shows that had just started gaining more popularity around that time. Well, years later, I found out that Iris and Wally were actually race swapped. Originally, they are white and ginger. The producers had also changed their family relations to each other. In the comics, they aren't siblings, but aunt and nephew. Learning about the race swapping didn't affect me too much, as I had stopped watching the show years before because the writing completely put me off at some point.
I'm the Flash.
See, that's what you don't get. When I put this ring on my finger, it wasn't just about you or me anymore. It was about us. You are not the Flash, Barry. We are.
One case, however, I still haven't gotten over. If you're an old fart like me, you might remember the cartoon show Teen Titans that got aired in the early 2000s on Cartoon Network, and that got one of the coolest intro songs I have ever heard. That I would have left to play for you, but my video just got copyright claims. It's the story of Batman's little helper Robin that had his own team now called the Teen Titans. And like any other traditional superhero show of that kind, there was a lot of crime fighting. What's also awesome about the series is the diverse cast and the humor used in it. And despite being a kids show, they integrated serious topics really well, like the meaning of friendship, loneliness, PTSD, and even daddy issues.
Let's just say I have issues with my father.
In fact, it was done so well that you can respect it and learn from it, even as a grown-up. Crazy how a cartoon for children managed to do it in a better way than most modern multi-million-dollar productions for adults these days. Well, one of the main characters is Starfire, a literal alien from another planet. One of her most prominent features is probably her orange skin that may or may not have inspired real-life people. But especially her red hair is what catches the eyes immediately. A long time after the end of that cartoon show, in the year 2018, another adaptation of the comics got announced, this time as a real-life adaptation that I was really looking forward to. But this time it wasn't about the Teen Titans, they were only the Titans now. Additionally, they had added an age gap between the main characters. While Raven and Beast Boy were still teenagers, Robin and Starfire were now adults who almost acted like parents to them. Generally, I think the actors, at least from their looks, were mostly well casted. But one casting choice started another controversy. Instead of following the comic books and casting an actual alien from space, the producers gave us a black actress in the role of Starfire. But not only her skin color or hair were different, no, she now also looked like, well, a lady of the night, if you know what I mean. Instead of roaming the streets at night to fight crime and put men into prison, she looked like she was being put in questionable positions by men now. At least if the price was right. But to be fair, she actually always looked like a specific type of actress you would see perform in adult movies in the 70s. Which, funny enough, we will get back to in a while. To go even further, her personality didn't seem the same at all too. In former portrayals, she always had this bubbly, happy nature that many people loved her for. Her, basically, naivety, stemming from the fact that she came from another planet and a culture too. In the real-life adaptation, however, she was more of a typical strong, independent woman, the kind we had to see in countless other modern-day representations of women in media. Gone was her sweet self and good-hearted mannerisms. She seemed arrogant now. I must point out though that again, I never read any comics. Apparently, in the comics she is a bit more fierce and less merciful than she is in the kids' cartoon, but still not as aggressive as in the new Titans show. I stopped watching after the first season of the Titans, but apparently they did change her looks a little in the later seasons. Some people on the internet wanted to defend the casting choice behind Starfire by posting false information. They claim that Starfire was based on the black model Naomi Campbell. This is very easy to disprove. Starfire made her debut in the year 1980. Naomi Campbell was born in 1970. Making her only 10 years old at the time of Starfire's first appearance. I think it's safe to say that Starfire was not based on a 10-year-old little girl. Naomi only started modeling about 5 to 6 years later, at the age of 15 or 16. The reason for Starfire's huge hair is the simple fact that it was a trend in the 80s to have hair that made you look like you just got electrocuted. Look, I just picked this random picture off the internet. God forgive me, she's probably a lovely person. But I wanted to dig deeper into the intentions behind Starfire. And what better way to understand a character than to go to their creator and literally ask for their inspirations. And what I found out is this. The artist by the name of George Perez stated in different interviews that Starfire was inspired by different women, one of those being Marilyn Monroe. Additionally, he put things about his ex-wife into that character too, and surprise, surprise, he was even inspired by an adult female dancer he once saw, and even an actress performing in the adult industry in the 70s. Remember the comparison I made? Unfortunately, I made a horrible mistake. I wanted to include a photo of that actress and was a bit too innocent in my belief that I would find only normal pictures of her online. But no, I got jump scared by a huge bush staring back at me. And I'm not even talking about hers, but that of a guy she was performing her job with. Let's just say beauty standards in terms of hair grooming were way different back in the days. And at last, the creator said he took some more aspects of other red-haired comic book figures like Red Sonja. My biggest problem was that it was one of those instances in which a probably $100,000 production was not able to make one of their most popular characters look more authentic. Because let's compare it to literal cosplayers. I found this one that looks absolutely amazing. And she's a black lady too. We've seen other black actresses be used to portray different colored aliens. It works very well with beautiful features that many black women have. Starfire in the show, however, is only orange when she activates her superpowers. And even those look kind of cheap as hell, like egg yolk with bloody veins in them or something. Mix that in with the already mentioned changes in her personality traits and the weird age differences that were added, and I was simply not invested anymore. So after yapping for God knows how many minutes, I want to add that each and every single of those actors and actresses are, at least from what I remember, good actors. Additionally, all of them are genuinely, conventionally attractive people, and I wish them nothing but good in their private lives as well as in their careers, wherever they all are now. I don't agree with them taking on roles of characters they don't look like. If I was an actor, I wouldn't have done this, but I still understand. I mean, money and exposure, right? If I want to really blame someone, I'm gonna blame the producers. I feel like at this point the movie companies are only casting minorities so they can use them as human shields once their productions fail, for other reasons than just skin color. Before we finally head for the conclusion part of this video, I wanted to share with you a trend on TikTok I recently found out about, and that is very interesting to say the least. You've heard of orange is the new black, and it seems like some people took this statement a bit too seriously. TikTok has blessed us with yet another brain-rotting trend, and it all started when this black lady had posted this short clip right here.
I just need to remind y'all again, everyone who is ginger, who has red hair, those are black people. All gingers are black people. If they have red hair, they are black. You see a white man with red hair, that's a black man. You see a white woman with red hair, that's a black woman. Gingers are black. All gingers.
As you just heard, she claims that all red-haired people are all actually black and therefore belong in the black community. That claim sounds beyond ridiculous. But after listening to it for a while, I found out it doesn't really actually mean what you might think it means. Obviously, they are not physically black. Instead, the point of this trend is to talk about something very sad that people, in that case black people and gingers, commonly face: discrimination.
Poopsikins? Sweetie, what is... Ah!
I'm ginger!
sick!
Many redheads started to use that trend to share mostly negative experiences they had simply because of the way they look. One lady, for instance, talks about having been fetishized, meaning someone was only attracted to her for her looks.
I mean, the bullying, it goes so deep. I'm talking about never getting picked for things, never getting invited to things. And then if you're good at something and getting attention, oh Lord, don't let that be a thing. People always wanting to touch your hair, being like, is that real? Or people not believing it's your hair color, your natural hair color. And then they're like, there's no way. Like when I was a toddler, people, or even a baby, people asked my mom if she colored my hair. And she's like, no, my baby's not even 1 year old yet. What else? Oh, getting older, and then how men or guys, they fetishize you. It's disgusting. Constantly getting fetishized. I've never been with a redhead before. Disgusting. Okay, and you're not today either. I don't know what makes you think that's going to happen today. People thinking that, like, you're angry for no reason. Actually, no. And then being very surprised when you're actually nice. I mean, the list goes on and on. The name calling growing up. Oh God, when that South Park episode came out when I think I was like in elementary school, because I'm 35 now. When that South Park episode came out, the bullying like was amped up. I don't look like anybody in my family because I'm the only redhead. So then people constantly be like, you're the ugly redheaded stepchild. Oh, that's the thing too. Constantly being told I'm ugly and I'm weird. So anyway, I mean, yeah, the experiences growing up were crazy.
Another woman recounts how she felt kind of alone because of the fact that she is the only one in the family that has red hair. The second her nephew was born, however, also with red hair, she got really happy. But that happiness didn't last too long, because she knew exactly what was waiting for him once he started to grow up. Listen to it yourself, it's genuinely crazy.
When I first saw that video of the woman saying that all redheads are black, it just kind of made me giggle at first. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool, but I just kept scrolling. Never thought that it would become what it is now. This trend of everyone, this topic of discussion now that everyone's kind of comparing, and I am kind of overwhelmed with the amount of love I'm seeing for the redhead community right now. It's something that I feel like a lot of us redheads are not used to. We are used to being kind of ostracized a lot, teased, or even straight up bullied for our difference in color. And so to see this like outpouring of love and the feeling of acceptance by like literally anyone is so awesome. I was of course bullied as a redhead. I always felt different, even in my own family. All of my sisters were blonde, and so to feel different or feel separate because of your coloring, I feel like it's it can be hard. When my nephew was born, he came out super ginger, bright orange hair, and I remember feeling so excited that there's finally another ginger in my family. But then also the other side of me was like, oh no, I know what he's gonna go through. Not feeling like, oh, he could go through this. No, like, especially like female gingers, yes, there'll be teased, but no one has it harder than male gingers. There's no escaping the bullying. You will be bullied for being a ginger, especially if you're a boy. So I knew what was in store for him, and as much as I was excited to have another ginger in the family, I just knew, and I told my sister, just be prepared. She's like, yeah, whatever. She's blonde. She didn't really get the extent of what was sure to come until my nephew got to about third grade, and my sister called me crying. She said he's coming home crying every day from school, bawling, crying because they're teasing him, they're bullying him so bad that he is now he keeps saying he doesn't want to live another day as a ginger, and she was scared. She said, can you please talk to him? He won't listen to me. He says, I don't understand what it's like, and you're the only one who can talk to him. So I remember talking to him, trying to explain to him how special it is to be a ginger, and how when you're going through it, I know you don't want to hear that, but just, I'm trying to save his life, literally. because he really did not want to live another day as a ginger because the bullying was that bad. It got so bad that despite my sister complaining to the school about it, they just said boys will be boys and he'll get through it. They didn't really do much about it. So because the situation had gotten so bad and he was now she had to move. She had to move just so she could get into a different school district to move him to a different school. And at that new school, again, he was the only ginger in the whole school, so of course he was targeted for being different and targeted for his coloring every day. With all that being said, I feel like to finally be seen by a group of people that says, you know, the whole like, oh, you're black, you're one of us. I don't see it as, oh, they're saying, you know, you're actually black, obviously, but more of a, we see you. We see how you're being treated, and you can come over here with us because we accept you, and we're not gonna treat you like that. And so that's a beautiful thing to see.
And the last video I wanted to share with you is about something a person said to a red-haired lady that is as delusional and disgusting as almost driving a child into leaving this world.
Something incredible has happened to redheads and gingers. I don't know if you know, but many people of the black community have came out and said that they see redheads and gingers aligned with many of the genetic features and the characteristics of black women. This has really brought up such an important issue because many of these gorgeous women are coming forward and saying that they can identify that something is off with the way that redheads are treated by many people in the white community. And this is something difficult thing to talk about because it's not racism. I don't know where that falls, but being born with red hair and super pale skin but not feeling accepted is a really, really tough spot to be in. You get bullied from a young age, you're made to believe it's horrible, people insult you without even meaning to. Some of the things that people have said to me because I have ginger hair growing up has been the most unhinged experience of my life. I once met a woman who came up to me and she said, I like your ginger hair, but honestly my biggest fear when I was pregnant was that I was going to give birth to a ginger baby, and I didn't know what to say, and I just was like, okay. She's like, and I'm really sorry for saying this. She was like, but I actually think I would prefer a child with a disability than red hair. And that is genuinely, hand on heart, what someone has said to me. That is just honestly not even the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the type of comments that you're experiencing when you're growing up with red hair. So for people in the black community to come out and call out that something is not right in the way that people with red hair are treated, and to call out the fact that something is off, is the best thing that could happen.
So a trend that sounds like a bad joke does have a darker and deeper meaning to it. However, why are black people some kind of measurement point for oppression? Does it really mean any person that faced any discrimination suddenly gets the label of being black? I know people that got bullied for wearing glasses as children or teenagers. Are they black too? What about short men? What about them being made fun of left and right by women and other men? Are they also black? The reactions to the trend of considering gingers as part of the black community were mixed too, by all skin colors. Some enjoyed it as a joke. Others started literally crying because they felt accepted once in their lives. And some black folks felt like they were being made fun of. They were more interested in reparations than some kind of cringy TikTok trend. And yet others wanted their race to be known for more than just suffering and oppression. So finally, let's try to answer some questions for this video. Why are we losing our beloved gingers, apart from baldness? Well, I believe the main reasons are the things I already mentioned in my Ariel segment: creative bankruptcy and pure laziness. The Western world loves to preach about diversity and about representation of minorities. But instead of actually putting in some effort and creating new inspiring characters, they just take already existing ones to bastardize and use to make as much money as possible from the current trend that is the topic of inclusion. It's just about profits, very simple. Movie producers will stop at nothing to achieve their financial goals, even if they hurt one of the biggest minority groups on this planet. I genuinely believe they do this on purpose. I mean, how are gingers gonna fight back when they are this view? Is hair color even important? Some people might ask if we should care about this erasure of redheads at all. Because how important is hair color really? Does it actually matter? Well, no, it's not important at all, just like skin color. But here's the thing, I, for example, don't care about my hair color, but I'm still happy about it. It's not an important part of me, but it is a part of me. Take away my hair color, take away my eye color, take away how my nose looks like, go change my height and so on and so forth, because all of this stuff is not important. But then, what does actually remain of me? Yeah, all of those things don't mean that much on their own, but ultimately, all of them combined do form me and make me who I actually am. Especially the more unique aspects of someone, like orange or red hair. We all have our trademark looks or trademark personality traits. Bruce Wayne, aka Batman for instance, would look weird as hell to me with blonde hair, because the dark hair is just part of his mysterious persona. Now you could also argue that it is hard to find actual red-haired actors and actresses to portray characters. That's fair. There are only so many redheads in the world and not all of them are in this business, even if there were more actors. There's no guarantee they are actually talented or look like certain characters at all beyond their hair color. But that's it. You can't find someone with red hair, so you throw it all out the window? Take it 10 steps further and change the entire race of said character? That's how you deal with the rarity of red hair? Man, if we only had something that you could, I don't know, maybe put on your hair to dye it another color. At least temporarily. Maybe we could call it something like hair dye? Hair dye maybe. Yeah. Is that a good name, guys? For something that changes your hair color and makes you look even more like a certain character if you already have the rest of their features? Are you really trying to tell me that you can take a blonde, for example, that has fitting facial features of a character and just give her red hair? Did you guys know that in the original Spider-Man movie trilogy, the actress that plays MJ, who has red hair, actually has natural blonde hair, and the actress that portrays Gwen Stacy, a blonde woman, actually has natural red hair? I just recently found out, decades after the movie release. That's how natural it looked like to me. And how much did it cost? What does hair dye cost? A couple of dollars maybe? Movie producers refuse to do this instead of race-swapping entire characters? But they have no problem throwing away millions and millions of dollars by releasing garbage movies and shows nobody asked for, just out of stubbornness despite fans wanting them over and over and over again. Are redheads overrepresented in comics despite being such a minority? Probably. I don't have statistics, but that's what the creators wanted them to look like. I just mentioned how many different women inspired the artist George Perez to create Starfire. He put parts of his life into that character. You gotta respect that, because I would want my art to be respected too, and the thoughts I put into it. Generally speaking, I have no problem with people wanting representation, including black people who have that wish. One argument for inclusion is to normalize the existence of certain groups of people. And hasn't it worked out partially for gingers? Because all that positive representation gingers have these days was not very common back in the days. Have you wondered why gingers had so many horrendous stories to tell? Well, it's still an after effect of the reputation they were given in the Middle Ages, especially in Europe. They were often said to be connected to the devil. Red is the color associated with anger, blood, lust and seduction. These are things intertwined with sin and Satan. Eve, as in Adam and Eve, is portrayed as having red hair. The woman who was seduced by the devil into eating the forbidden fruit and thus more or less condemned us all to suffering on earth, at least in Christian belief. And Christianity was the religion most prevalent in Europe. That's why redheads there suffered the most. The belief of redheads being tied to evil even went as far as accusing them of having a pact with the devil in order to be able to perform witchcraft. Some estimates say it were around 45,000 redheads who were burned at the stake for alleged witchcraft. However, there is no historical evidence that it were actually that many, or at least that many that were specifically targeted for the hair color. But it is still assumed that redheads were an easier target for such accusations because they stood out from the crowd, and you know how humans are, constantly afraid of things that don't look like them. In medieval Germany, for instance, there was a conspiracy theory about a tribe of red-haired Jews that was allegedly conspiring with the Antichrist to destroy Christianity. Of course, there is no correlation between that and the current-day Temple Institute in the Holy Land that has purchased 5 perfectly red heifers from Texas for $500,000 to burn in front of Temple Mount to summon the end times and their Messiah to enslave the rest of the world. And we should all just stop noticing things and being so damn anti-satanic. And well, the proof that better representation can work out is the fact that people like me exist. Personally, I associate redheads with mostly positive personality traits, like loyalty for instance. I have that good impression of gingers because I grew up with all those red-headed characters I hold dearly to my heart, and I think a lot of you who grew up with the same characters as I did would agree. And even if they are portrayed as witches again once in a while, people are more busy thirsting over them than hating them. Of course, at the end of the day, you shouldn't mix fiction with reality too much, and you should give final judgment to a person simply based on their personality, without the influence of prejudices you might have, be it negative or positive ones. So I repeat myself again, I don't mind representation, including that of black people, but I don't believe it's been done in a good way lately. Why, just why do we have to take away representation from one group of people in order to give another group of people more screen time? Especially if the group we take away their representation from just so happens to be marginalized as well. Good representation can definitely work to a certain extent, but unfortunately, it's just that it is in our human nature to be more focused on the negative than the positive, which makes it very difficult for us to break old habits and get rid of harmful stereotypes. So gingers might still be in need of their good representation. Redheads may not be systematically oppressed these days, but it still looks like they have to deal with enough discrimination. And even black people seem to be aware of that. I mean, the gingers are black trend was quite literally started by a black woman. There are studies that show that there are young people who have taken their own lives because of bullying related to their hair color. And there are even human rights organizations calling for it to be made a hate crime to attack redheads based on their appearance, just to finally put an end to this kind of horrendous treatment. What is the solution? Simply create new original characters instead that respects all types of audiences. That's the most logical and simplest solution that even a child would understand in this brain-dead conversation that's been going on for over a decade now. I would like to reiterate that I do not believe this to be about black people versus white people. Underneath all the videos I have shown you today, there was a wide variety of opinions in the comment sections from all types of groups. Black people are not a hive mind. White people are not a hive mind. It's not a black people versus white people thing. It's us common people versus whatever the hell movie producers are smoking these days. I could say a lot more about this, but I think that's enough for today. The video is already way longer than I wanted it to be. This was more of an overview or some kind of rant because the topic of race swapping can certainly be explored in much greater depth, as it doesn't only affect redheads. The topics for another time would be the question what kind of effects race swapping had on society in recent years and whether or not it has done more damage than good and might have actually even fueled racial tensions. And how important is representation in media actually? If you are interested in those upcoming videos, feel free to subscribe. And in the meantime, go ahead and watch my backlog. It includes a video series about the origins of the ongoing culture war. It starts with an overview of feminist media critic Anita Sarkeesian that basically set the stage for years of culture war to come. My magnus opum, the second part, is about Zoe Quinn, who really got the war started with the whole Gamergate controversy, and then I took a look at the probably cringiest Law & Order Special Victims Unit episode that got inspired by Gamergate and decided to portray all gamers and comic book fans as literal domestic terrorists. And the latest addition to my series is my essay about indie game dev Phil Fish, who ruined his entire career because he just couldn't bring himself to look off Twitter and ended up making himself a target for 4chan users and their shenanigans. Before you leave, however, there is one small win we had in this war that I wanted to share with you. A couple of years ago, a movie of the character Red Sonja got announced. Red Sonja is a very skilled and strong warrior lady, living in a fictional world that can be mostly compared to that of Conan the Barbarian or maybe Xena. Red Sonja was about to be played by an actress who is mixed race and that had already played Jill Valentine in the 2021 movie remake of Resident Evil. Well, she's not the main lead anymore. She got replaced by an Italian actress, and just a few weeks before I started this project, a trailer for Red Sonja got released. The reactions in the comments section, however, are still pretty mixed, and I understand why. The trailer has so many cuts in it. It feels more like a fan edit than a professional Hollywood movie. There is one scene though that I found really funny. At the end of the trailer, Sonja is picking up her armor at a blacksmith. What is then presented to her is a metal bikini she also usually wears in the comics. She then straight up asks him if this is gonna give her any protection at all, and the blacksmith answers with, "No, but the people will like it." He then jiggles it in front of her.
And these.
And that protects?
Nothing. The crowd will love it.
And if you're interested in the movie, just beware a little bit. In an interview, the main actress told reporters that it is different from the original story and that they wanted to move away from the male gaze. I don't need half-naked women in my media, I couldn't care less, but seeing words like male gaze be used does tickle my spider senses. We had to endure just one too many bitter, strong, independent women the last couple of years.
Is that like a personal attack or something? Or...
To be fair, however, a little spoiler alert I guess, the actress explains that in the movie, the basically useless armor was given to her to somewhat humiliate her after she was captured and forced to fight. Not only does it expose her to all the people watching her battle inside a fighting pit, but she is also much more vulnerable than her enemies who wear actual functioning armor. She then owns that armor because she manages to win against them anyway. I'm fine with that explanation. Makes sense to me, but let's just wait and see. Okay guys, I just read through some more articles about the new Red Sonja movie, and the amount of suspicious buzzwords used is astonishing. We got the whole package, from inclusivity, representation, diversity, empowerment, and especially what triggered me the most, modern audiences. And the director is the same woman that wrote and directed the god-awful Silent Hill Revelation movie. And the writer is the woman behind The Witcher Blood Origin. Yeah, I'm out. But what about you guys? Remember, this was supposed to be a funeral service. And there are probably many more examples of Gingercide I could have mentioned. What beloved character did you lose to the Gingercide? And do you have any hopes for the future? Are you maybe a ginger yourself and want to share some of your life experiences and opinions on this topic? Also,
do you wear wigs?
No, I do not.
Have you worn wigs?
No, I have not.
Will you wear wigs?
Maybe.
When will you wear wigs?
Write it down in the comment section and thank you for watching. DM me if you look like this.
I felt like dressing up. You don't mind, do you?